Hello there, welcome to another episode of the Allotment Dram. This is a series of short videos where we sit and talk about different whiskies in the surroundings of our North London allotment. And as you can see, join me here on a lovely mid-April spring afternoon. It's been really quite warm, there's just a little bit breezy, just taking the edge off things, but perfectly fine to be sitting here in a t-shirt and talking to you, especially after doing a little bit of quite laborious work like cutting grass and weeding, and these things are starting to grow, so got that to look forward to over the next few months. But while that's all very interesting, of course, I am here to talk about whiskey. And what is the Allotment Dram today, I hear you ask? And it's a good question, because today I've picked what's a bit of a classic and also one of our long-time favourites, so bought this up from our whiskey cupboard today, and it is the Highland Park 18 years old, and this is nicknamed the Viking Pride, and we'll get into that in a short while. But what can I tell you about Highland Park? Well, it's one of the oldest distilleries still in operation in Scotland. It's been going since 1798 up in the Shetland, not in the Shetlands, what am I talking about, in the Orkney Islands. It's in the capital of the Orkneys, which is Kirkwall, and as I say, founded in 1798. A bit of story about it, as there are with a lot of these old brands that the marketeers seem to enjoy sort of bringing to life. The story of this is that it was actually founded by a gentleman called Magnus Jonsson, who was the priest at Kirkwall Cathedral, and the rumour has it that he was distilling for quite a number of years before 1798, and actually, because he was a priest, he was illegally distilling during the night, and then being a priest during the day, and that he actually hid the whiskey in the crypt under the cathedral to avoid being caught by the sort of police or taxmen or whatever were looking for any illicit distillers. So that's quite a nice story. So really, when I say 1798, it's really when he was discovered, I would say, rather than when the distillery was actually founded, if you sort of catch the drift there. But of course, what happened with the Orkneys is that excuse me, what happened with the Orkneys was that back in the day they got heavily invaded, as indeed the whole of that sort of east coast of the Highlands and the Shetlands. That's where I got the Shetlands from, because I had the Shetlands in my mind as well. But they all got invaded and ransacked basically by the Vikings. And of course they went all the way through the top of Scotland, round through the Hebrides on the other side of the west coast, and then eventually into Ireland. So what you'll find in Orkney is there's a lot of places that have, rather than sort of Scottish or sort of Gaelic sort of path to their names, they have this sort of Nordic Scandinavian sort of feel to them. So Highland Park have kind of tapped into that for their marketing over the last, particularly the last sort of 10-15 years, and now we've got like all sort of lovely design on the bottle, sort of Nordic sort of design and around the top and so on, and that's why they've nicknamed all of their range something to do with, so this is Viking Pride, and there's, I think the 12-year-old is called Viking Honor and something like that. But a lovely set of whiskies, multi-award winning, just a little hint of sort of peat smoke, but not too, certainly not like any Islay whiskies, just kind of running underneath normally. So that's why a lot of people like them, because they seem to tick a lot of boxes without going too far in any one direction. It's also one of the last remaining places that actually do any sort of traditional floor malting themselves. Very, very interesting place. Yet to get up to the Orkneys to actually visit Highland Park, but it's really on the bucket list. But I think without further ado, I've been waffling on for like 5 minutes, so really should have a taste of this and to give you some thoughts. As you can see, a lovely sort of deep sort of golden, almost amber in colour actually, and just a lovely sort of old whiskies don't normally have, can sometimes not have a vibrancy to them. There's a definite sort of lovely, it's very elegant here. What are we smelling? It's this little underlying, quite soft, sweet peat smoke in the background. There's some lovely sort of honey, like heather honey. There's a bit of dried fruit. There's a mix of bourbon and sherry casks in the mix, as there is across most of Highland Park's range. So you've got sort of the best of both worlds. There's a little sort of peachy, almost tropical thing in there. And then some caramel, cinder toffee. Very, very enticing. It's hard not to have a sip, so I'm just going to do it and have one. This has got a wonderful sort of softness to it. It's bottled at 43%, so a touch higher than the 12-year-old, for example. But it's got a wonderful softness. Again, a lot of this sort of honey, some golden syrup, toffee, caramel. Then underneath you get this lovely sort of dried fruits, so raisin, sultana, bit of candied orange peel as well. And again, there's another layer. There's like a sort of biscuity, like a sort of oat biscuit, oat cake, that type of quite malty cereal type of biscuit. And all the way through there's this quite delicate spice, sort of wood spice, a little bit of like cinnamon or something like that. But then this lovely, soft, sweet, very elegant sort of wisp of peat smoke coming through. And the peat that they have on Orkney burns with this softer, gentler type of smoke than you get sort of on the Western Isles, particularly Islay, which is a bit more medicinal and a bit heavier. But let's have another taste. It's a real sip and savour one, this. It's just so delicious. Because it's got these layers, they just kind of, they sort of each reveal themselves but work together at the same time, if that makes any sense at all. But very, very good whiskey. I mean, you can really see why it wins so many awards, this Highland Park 18. And I mean, the only negative really is that, as with a lot of whiskies that are 18 years and above, is that the price has sort of gone up quite a lot. I remember back in the day, in my days working in a whiskey shop, it was probably, you could get this for 60 or 70 pounds. It's now almost double that at something like 120, 125. So but some would argue you get what you pay for, because it is such a delicious whiskey with all these lovely notes and components to it. But yeah, just think, it does tick so many boxes. It's got sweetness, it's got fruitiness, it's got a bit of richness, it's got a bit of elegance, it's got a bit of sort of this biscuity quality, and then this underlying sort of peat smoke. So tick, 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 tick for us, and this is why it's remained one of our favourites for this 14 or 15 years since we first got into whiskey. So I think from myself and the Highland Park 18, the Viking Pride, we will bid you farewell. We'll leave you to get on with whatever you were doing before you discovered this video. We hope you join us again for another one sometime soon, and have a good evening. Cheers. Bye bye.